Have you ever wondered why some parts of you just don't fit anymore? Why you keep circling back to the same patterns even when you know they're not really you? Yeah, me too. Welcome, fellow heart travelers. My name is Christopher Box, a future version of myself, and I'm here to introduce a video that I did in February, right in the heart of winter, when everything felt quiet, heavy, and honest. And what I shared that day is still true now, maybe even more. In this video, I'm talking about what it means to really know yourself, and how sometimes the only way to get there is by first seeing all the ways you've not been yourself. So if you're on that path, you know the one with the detours, the identity crisis, and a million tiny course corrections. Welcome. You're not broken, you're remembering. Let's do a little time travel magic and check in on what the winner version of myself has to say about all of this. So let's go. In order to know who you are, you have to know who you are not. It's probably one of my all-time favorite sayings, because what it implies is that there are no mistakes. I like to use the word mistakes as well. So um, I think a great place to start is from the beginning, but maybe not all the way from the beginning, but from the beginning of when I feel like that I had what I'm calling an awakening, or you know, kind of stepping back into who I really am, remembering my authenticity and remembering the factory settings of who I am, if you will. So it was in 2019. I went through a pretty big life altering change. I got a divorce, and from my husband at the time, and it was legit earth shattering. I always say that it broke my heart into a million pieces. Um, and also the other side of it is it allowed me to be free of some of the old programming and old situations that were no longer serving the greater good of me and also the people around me. So one of the first things I did was starting to explore, and I gave myself permission to kind of go out and look at things that were kind of like taboo and maybe even off limits. I like the idea of being able to explore things without necessarily uh, believing it or not. I like to take in the information, sit with it, and make up my own mind. And so one of the first things that I encountered was a really cool system called human design. And it's also has another name called the gene keys. And it is definitely, it's kind of out there. It's kind of different. It's kind of on the same level of, let's say, astrology or tarot. But it immediately spoke to me in a way that I knew that I wanted to know more. And so I kind of dove in with curiosity and with just really wanting to figure out where I had gotten off course, and wanting to kind of get to a place that I could feel good again, truly. So I booked a session with a human design specialist. And I remember one of the first things that I said was, I almost felt a little bit of shame, if I'm being completely transparent, that I was late, that I was off course, that I had somehow missed the bus, missed the ride, missed the plane. Um, but kind of one of the things that she told me in that session, and I didn't believe it, to be honest with you, at the time. But it's been almost 6 years since I had that session, and I've had a lot of time to think about it. And the truth is like, you know, you're not, of course, and neither was I. In fact, the whole point of this game of life is to experience your not self, like your programmed self. So let's take that from the top. What does that mean? So I want to give these things in kind of like building blocks, so we can kind of, each video you can watch independently, or you can actually watch them back to back and get some core truths. And so, with the saying, in order to know who you are, you have to know who you are not. And so there's a lot of wisdom that is gained in the journey of not knowing who you are. And so whenever you're born at from age 0 to 7, your brain is in theta state, and that's actually science. And theta state is something like I tell people that, and I don't feel like they fully cognize what I mean by that. Like theta state equals programmable. It literally means that your brain is taking in all the information to basically lay down the core program of who you are. Um, Theta state, to get into theta state as an adult, you have to actually go in and you have to do a pretty intense meditation to kind of get you in that place between sleep and being awake. It's actually not easy to do. So imagine being, from age 0 to 7, having you're basically walking around and everything is going into the core program of your hard drive, which is actually known as your subconscious mind. And so the thing is like you can really take on a bunch of characteristics and patterns that are actually not who you are. And I don't know about you guys, but I certainly know that I didn't get what I call the good stuff growing up. Or maybe how about that? How about I had to learn and be things that I actually am not at the core in order for me to get to a place later in life to question those things and start asking better questions about who I am. And so one of the biggest epiphanies that I had um, over after having my human design session is that you're definitely not you're not behind. You're not off course. If you're watching a video like this, that tells me that you're on a path of discovery, and I consider you a fellow heart traveler. And what that means is like growing up, we pick up a lot of things that our parents teach us, and the truth is like their parents taught them what they're doing, and then it goes back, and so on and so forth. And so one of a huge epiphany for me is like we've been on autopilot as a collective, and I feel like that what we're moving into is a time that for those of us who have strong heart energy, that it is a time of questioning those things, of questioning those patterns and programs and habits and things, and really asking if they serve. Um, and one of the most beautiful things that you can give yourself is giving yourself time to contemplate, to meditate, to sit in the quiet, to be by yourself, and to really step into um, your authenticity. And I'm going to be honest with you. In the beginning, it is extremely hard, and it is I would say it's very confusing because I always felt like I wasn't doing it right. Like I was missing something. Like my mind kept wanting me to apply logic to something that logic can't actually fully understand. And so the truth is like it takes time to go through those things. It takes time to question, the letting go of old patterns. And the saying is very powerful, and it's two steps forward, one step back. And maybe that's not even linear. Maybe it's 15 steps forward and 82 steps back. But always, the average will always move you forward. So I'm making these videos as kind of a way that maybe I'm pretending if it were me, and if I could tell myself back in 2019, give myself some advice, it would be, in order to know who you are, you have to know who you are not. And so where the wisdom is like, looking at the things that you're not and looking at the things that you've done, the people that you've been, the people you have associated with, the jobs that you've been in, the good times, the bad times, the in-between times, and really auditing it through a process, through a lens of, is this who I am? Is this who I am, and does it serve the greater good of who I am? And so my message today, in a very convoluted way, is that it's okay. You're not lost. And you're on a path of rediscovering yourself, and this was all done on purpose. I believe that we all come into this world and we have, I like to think of it, you're going to get from, from point A, from where you start, and you're going to get over to where you're supposed to be going. And the universe, when you're born, gives you like a shove in the right direction, but you have a lot of area that you can wiggle back and forth and experience that trip. I always use the analogy that you're going to get there. And so what I feel like, systems like human design, and we're definitely going to talk more about that, what it gives you, instead of like, if you were dropped in the middle of nowhere in a mountain range and it was snowing, and you were many, 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 many miles away from anyone, and you had to get back, but you knew no matter what, you're going to get back, and you're going to get back mostly safe. In one journey, you have a tent, a sleeping bag, you've got a compass, you've got food, you have everything you need to make the journey easier. The journey's still going to be hard. And then, another person gets dropped, they've got no clothes and they have a match, and that's it. And and you're told, both were told, no, hey, you're going to make it no matter what. But I guarantee you the person who was dropped with nothing is going to have a much harder time getting there, right? And but the thing about the person who is dropped, with nothing to really get back, that they're going to learn a lot about themselves. They're going to learn a lot about how the world works, and there is deep wisdom in that. And so, if you're watching a video like this, what that tells me is that you're probably one of those people that are taking the long way around. And I really did, in the beginning, beat myself up about that. I didn't fully understand what I'd gained when I basically, I feel like I came back online and looked around and said, how did I get here? So if you're experiencing that, it's okay. It's actually a gift. In order to know who you are, you have to know who you are not. And so for those of us on the long extended ride home, what I love and what I've gained is a deep understanding of myself, and a deep love for how I've managed to hold my light in my heart, even when I was out in the weeds and no one was looking and no one would know that I was doing whatever. But I know, and I knew, and my heart always was there to guide me back home. So that's it for today, fellow heart travelers. I left a link in the description if you're interested. We actually have, I have a website called the Heart Division, and so we make like handmade candles. I'm an artist as well, so we have a lot of heart-based art, and we have some cool, fun designs for t-shirts and stuff like that. So if you want to support, you want to help out, that would be a great way to start. So just hit the link in the description. So I will talk to you guys soon, and I really appreciate you.